Hi everyone, my name is Adi, and today we're going to be featuring the team that Raghav Malaviya used to get ninth place in the North American Players' Cup. So Raghav, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on.
Why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Hi, my name is Raghav. I've been playing Pokemon since 2016, and I recently got ninth at the Players' Cup, the North American qualifiers.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, the Players' Cup is a 256 player double elimination tournament hosted by the Pokemon Company International, with invites extended to the top players from the May International Challenge. And we're going to have 8 of the top 16 players from this Players' Cup come onto the channel to talk about their teams, Raghav being one of them, so make sure to subscribe to not miss a single one. All right, so Raghav, tell me a little bit about the lead up to the tournament and how you decided to use this awesome team.
Leading up to the tournament, I was a bit worried about what I was going to use. You and some of my other friends had already set on a specific idea, and I was kind of freaking out. And I was in call with some of my friends, and they were like, "What do you want to use?" And I said, I had this soak idea with Inteleon, and you guys were testing Magnezone as well, so I was like, okay, let's just try this. And so the idea was with really fast Soak Inteleon, I had Rillaboom and Magnezone for constant offensive pressure. And in testing, it just went amazing. And so that was kind of the core idea of the team.
And when did you finalize this team?
I'd say it's probably maybe 2 days before the event. Actually, maybe even less on the final six. I had four of the Pokemon down, but 2 days. But up until the night before, I was trying to figure out the fifth and sixth Pokemon.
Yeah, I remember we were in call and you were working really hard on trying to figure out exactly what you wanted to do before the team lock in, which was pretty early in the morning on Friday, and this was like Thursday night that we were trying to work through this.
Yeah, I knew I wasn't waking up on time to do it right before team lock in, so I had to do it the night before.
Yeah, but it seemed like you picked the right six. So you want to walk me through the specific Pokemon that you used and all their sets.
Sure, yeah. So the first Pokemon that I had was the Inteleon. And the idea behind this Pokemon is, it has a focus sash, so it can reliably get done what it needs to do, which is clicking Soak for my grass and electric type. So I used a pretty simple move set. It was Snipe Shot, Soak, Icy Wind, Protect. Snipe Shot's just a good stab, and with the recently added Gmax moves, when it turns into a Gmax, it becomes 160 base power. So I didn't need the power of Hydro Cannon or Hydro Pump or anything. And ignoring redirection was actually really powerful too, because against Cinderace, you could just ignore redirection or something with Snipe Shot and get a good chunk of damage out. And so Soak was the next move I added, which was the main idea of the team. It both offensive and defensively, it was really useful. And then Icy Wind, with the new speed mechanics, it let Rillaboom outspeed something the same turn. Same thing with my Togekiss. It just felt like the best fourth move, and then Protect because there's just a lot of situations where you might be trying to get faked out or you just need to reposition. So that was the idea behind the move set. As for the EV spread, I just kept it simple. I just wanted it to be fast and do as much damage as possible because you don't have a lot to work with in its defensive stats. So yeah, that's where I kept it.
Yeah, and so it looked like you had a couple Pokemon that could really exploit Soak. You want to tell me about those two?
Yeah, Magnezone was the star of the team. I'll say that. And it was honestly just so good. So it was the Grassy Seed set. It had Analytic and it had Thunderbolt, Flash Cannon, Body Press, and Protect. So the idea behind this Magnezone was to be extremely bulky on the physical end because you switch it in with that Grassy Train, you get an instant defense boost, and then when you Dynamax it, I made it minimum speed, so it would almost always move last, depending on what was on the field. And the analytic boost just made it do so much damage without any investment. I had literally zero special attack, and it would still hit like a truck. And so, so one of the problems with Magnezone is that it has really good coverage, but sometimes you still might not be able to, hit something like a Marowak or something. Well, actually, Marowak's a bad example because that's Lightning Rod, but just something that resists Magnezone's hit. And so with Soak, it just made it more active immediately. And yeah, honestly, I cannot express to you how good this Magnezone was, because there were a lot of games where I would just click Steel Spike 3 times, and then the body press would do an insane amount of damage with the analytic.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to express it to me. I used the exact same set on my team. You showed this to me, like I think maybe a week before the tournament or before check-in started, and it was a mainstay on my team as well. It was just it's absolutely such a powerhouse, does so much, and you have even more support for it with Soak, allowing you to not only like hit super effective thunderbolts into things, but also if you want once you get to +4 defense, you can body press into things like ghost types or other things that might resist it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was also good defensively. In one of my rounds, I actually soaked myself to win the game, so I wasn't weak to ground type moves anymore.
That's really
Uh,
cool too.
yeah, it was against Gavin, a good friend of ours.
Yeah, and Gavin's team report is also going to be on this channel. He finished, I believe, top 16 or maybe top 12.
I think he actually
Um,
got the same thing as me. I think it was the same top 12 ninth finish.
yeah, so look out for that too. And then you didn't have just the option to hit things with the super effective Thunderbolt, but you also had the ability to hit things with Rillaboom as well, right?
Yeah, Rillaboom, again, one of the new Pokemon with their new ability, Grassy Surge. It's everywhere, and it's one of the best Pokemon for a reason. Grassy Surge is an amazing ability, and it gets Grassy Glide, which is a priority grass move that is 70 base power, and this move is just nuts. So, like, I knew I was going to use this because back in 2017, I was a big Bulu fan, and I even used Soak back then, so this kind of felt like a natural, addition or a natural just choice to make using Soak with Rillaboom. And so for the move set, I had the standard Fake Out and Grassy Glide, and then U-turn because I really appreciate being able to position out. I think it's one of the best moves on Rillaboom. That's kind of just the style of how I play. I like to have options. I really enjoy being able to switch out. And for the final move, I felt Woodhammer was really important because you kind of need it with Soak. If you don't have Woodhammer, you always need to Dynamax your Rillaboom to reliably get that combo off because Grassy Glide is priority. So, having that strong second grass move was definitely the right choice for this set. The EV spread was actually really difficult to make. So I tried to make it faster than a lot of other Rillabooms while maintaining a good amount of damage. And with the Assault Vest, it still remained fairly bulky. So the spread did what it needed to.
Yeah, and I know I've seen a lot of people running knockoff or high horsepower in the last slot for Rillaboom, but who needs coverage moves when you can just hit everything super effectively with Woodhammer?
Exactly. That's definitely the idea behind the team.
Okay, so that seems like the really powerful offensive core of the team that can really abuse Soak. You want to tell me about the other Pokemon?
For sure. The first 3 Pokemon were like super important to the core of the team, but just as important was Incineroar because the support that Incineroar offers is just like you can't match it. It's easily one of the best Pokemon in the game, and it shows in usage. So, having Intimidate, Fake Out, and Parting Shot really allowed me to get into those positions where I can pin the opponent with Soak. Because there were a lot of games where I'd lead, like, Inteleon and Incineroar, and then Protect and Parting Shot into my offensive threat. Because, just having that safety of, reducing the opponent's attack or special attack and safely getting in your Pokemon is really necessary to teams like this. Because otherwise, there'd just be a lot of situations where the opponent can abuse my lead of Inteleon Rillaboom. They could Fake Out, they could try and Dynamax and threaten me, but having Incineroar to position around was essential to the team. And the move set was pretty standard. I chose Darkest Lariat over other dark moves because I like the consistent damage output, and I felt like I didn't need Lash Out or anything. If Incineroar was getting intimidated, it was still not doing much damage. And the safety goggles was really necessary versus things like Amoonguss and Venusaur. And so that was the idea behind that. The EV spread lives a -1 Life Orb High Jump Kick from Cinderace, I think 15 out of 16 times. And the rest of the EVs were put into Special Defense and Speed to outspeed Timid Amoonguss by 2 points.
You want to tell me about the other support Pokemon?
Oh, for sure. Togekiss was very useful in the Sun matchup, And again, I think Togekiss is one of the best Pokemon in the game as well. The damage output for a support Pokemon is insane. It has Air Slash for boosting your speed. It's got Follow Me, a really powerful move. Dazzling Gleam with the Spread Fairy damage. And then I chose Protect, but honestly, if I could change anything on the team, I would probably put Yawn over Protect. This Togekiss was mostly brought to just the Sun matchup. It wasn't super essential in any of the other matchups, but if I had Yawn, it could be really useful in a lot of situations. But yeah, the idea behind this Togekiss was to be a support Pokemon, but also being able to Dynamax. And, with new Pokemon like Rillaboom and the Urshifus, I thought, having the option to max Airstream was really important. So I think having Air Slash on Togekiss is just really important now.
Sure, and I noticed that you're running a modest set so that you can do a little more damage while you're Dynamax as well.
Yeah, there weren't any real defensive calcs that I needed with a bold or calm nature. So, even when I max, I'm still doing a good amount of damage because I am modest. The EV spread, I think, was made to live a Life Orb Sludge Bomb from Venusaur most of the time. And then the 44 defense, uh, it's not essential, but I think it lived a Cinderace Iron Head reliably. Not Steel Spike, but an Iron Head. And that weirdly came up a lot. So, yeah, that was what the EV spread did.
Interesting. And I see you're running a Lumberry rather than another item like more traditionally safety goggles. I know the safety goggles is on the Incineroar, but why did you run a Lumberry?
Yeah, I just needed some more help against Venusaur, because that was kind of the problem with the team at first. There was a not a strong Sun matchup, and I didn't like to play the games with Venusaur, whether they go for Sleep Powder or they Dynamax, and so having Lumberry on my Togekiss in combination with the safety goggles on Incineroar kind of always forced them to Dynamax. And that was the idea behind the item choice. It was to create that pressure.
Sure. And then you also said you were EV to live a Sludge Bomb, so even if they poisoned you, you'd be able to survive that turn.
Yeah, exactly. The Lumberry actually came up a lot like that. There were games where I'd get poisoned and I'd be like, ah. But then I remembered I had the Lumberry and I was fine.
Cool. And then so the last choice is probably the most interesting to me is Snorlax. I haven't seen a ton of Snorlax in Series 5. What made you put this on the team?
Yeah, I was still thinking. I was talking to some of my friends like Rajan and just everyone, and they were kind of like trying to help me figure out this Sun matchup. And I've always liked Snorlax. Before in Series 4, I was using a Yawn set, and I think the series before that, I had used Choice Band. And so I thought about it again, and I'm like, okay, Thick Fat Choice Band could work. This is a team that doesn't have Trick Room, but it really appreciates any, chip damage it can get. And so having that Thick Fat ability and the ability to just do a lot of damage, it was actually really useful in the Sun matchup because a lot of these Sun teams, they have the Venusaur Torkoal, but they also have that Dusclops Tyranitar in the back. And having something to threaten that Tyranitar in Trick Room was really, really good. So Choice Band Superpower was kind of the initial idea behind this slot. And it kind of evolved into a Pokemon that I could bring to a lot of matchups just because of the sheer damage it does. And it's really bulky and really strong, so I was really happy with the Snorlax. The moveset was fairly standard except for the Rock Slide. It was Double Edge, Superpower, Rock Slide, Lariat. I wanted Superpower for that Tyranitar, Darkest Lariat to hit Dragapult, and Double Edge is just a really strong stab. Rock Slide was to help more in the Sun matchup, but again, looking back on it, I think I would have appreciated High Horsepower. Because it locks me into a move that doesn't, reduce my stats or my health, and so I think it would just be a really strong option versus things like Torkoal and Colossal and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. And so what were some of the common leads that you would bring, or what was some of the common modes that this team had?
Right, so in most matchups, I would bring the four of Inteleon, Magnezone, Rillaboom, and Incineroar. And my most common leads were probably Inteleon, Rillaboom. I actually led Inteleon a lot. You can pretty much lead any of these Pokemon with Inteleon. That was the nice part of the team. So
Hmm.
I'd lead Inteleon Incineroar a lot, to fake out, get a snipe shot, or protect parting shot into my threat. Incineroar Magnezone was also a really common lead because I'd get the Intimidate off immediately, and then I'd switch to my Rillaboom to get the Grassy Seed boost and the fake out the next turn. So I'd
Hmm.
usually either lead one of Inteleon or Magnezone.
Okay. And so, what do you think some of the stronger matchups for the team were, and what do you think some of the weaknesses were?
Honestly, when I made the team and throughout the tournament, I didn't feel like I had too many weak matchups. Soak really makes like a lot of matchups just become positive with that pressure. So,
Hmm.
I thought Lapras was a really strong matchup I had, which was really common in the series before. Um, I thought Cinderace was a really good matchup because Inteleon's speed tier and its just ability to snipe shot it or Gmax move it was really good. So a lot of Cinderace teams were good matchups.
Hmm.
One of the really tough matchups was definitely Conan's team because he had the standard Sand, but his Togekiss had Heat Wave and Protect, and with that Scope Lens, it became really volatile because I had to play as if he was going to crit me. And
Right.
so, strong fire type or special attackers make the team difficult when Magnezone is kind of my response to it. Because if you look at the team, Magnezone's really the powerhouse, especially versus Togekiss. And so if they have the ability to crit me with a strong fire move, that felt really difficult. And obviously, another rough matchup was Sun. I tried my best to patch that up, but I still wouldn't call it a positive matchup. It was definitely playable, but it was definitely one of the tougher matchups.
Sure. And despite some of those rougher matchups, you still managed to do really well in the tournament. Got really far. Got all the way to the top 12 players. Do you want to talk about your tournament run a little bit?
For sure. It started off, I wasn't looking forward to it because when I saw my bracket, I saw I might have to play my friend Nails round two. And so the first round, I played a Trick Room team. I can't remember the six, but I remember the mode he brought against me. He led Hatterene and Didi with Chandelure and Conkeldurr in the back. And so the idea behind my opponent's team was kind of just set up Trick Room and beat me in it. And this is where Lum
Hmm.
Togekiss was actually really strong because when the Hatterene used its Gmax Smite, Togekiss would avoid the confusion because of its Lumberry, and I had a really good time against this team because of Togekiss, Incineroar, and my choice band Snorlax. I put on a lot of pressure with the Misty Terrain and the Lumberry, and Snorlax was kind of just able to clean up the game because it was a Trick Room. So that was round one. Round two, I played my good friend Nails. He had a Cinderace team with Incineroar, Tyranitar, Clefairy, Milotic, and Rillaboom. John Evans actually used this team to get, what was it, sixth, I think? Or fifth?
He got top six. Yeah.
Yeah, he went really far into the tournament.
We will have his team report coming up on this channel as well. So look out for that.
Yeah, it was really rough playing a good friend, and the matchup definitely seemed in my favor because, as I've been mentioning, Inteleon's really powerful against Cinderace, and Magnezone's really good against physical attackers. And if you look at Nails' team, it doesn't have too many special attackers to threaten the Magnezone. So what I ended up doing was leading Inteleon and Magnezone, and I kind of just put on that pressure. I think I Dynamaxed my Inteleon one of the games, if I recall correctly. And the other game, I kind of just Dynamaxed my Magnezone, got the Steel Spike boost, and it was impossible to kill my Magnezone. So that game really showcased the strength of Magnezone's power and its bulk because it becomes really hard to kill, and with body press, it's just doing a bunch of damage versus these teams. In my third round, I played a Corviknight team, but the scary thing was the Gastrodon. At this point, I was a little scared because I thought Gastrodon would really die down with Rillaboom being everywhere. But I actually played two in the tournament. Did I? No, I played one. I played one in the tournament, but I was pretty scared of it. He led Cinderace. Well, no, sorry. He led Corviknight and Incineroar, I believe, into my Inteleon, And this was another good moment for Snipe Shot because it would actually avoid Gastrodon's Storm Drain. So I would play around that and try and bring in my Magnezone with the Rillaboom at the same time so the Gastrodon couldn't threaten me with an Earth Power. So the idea behind that game plan was to put on constant pressure with the Rillaboom. And in game two, he didn't respect the Inteleon enough, and I kind of just took over with a Snipe Shot, and I won the game that way.
Nice.
So that was it for week one. In the second week, I played a person named, what was it, Trent. And they had a Comfy Lapras team, similar to you and some of my other friends. But they also had Cinderace and Talonflame. And so that kind of made it tricky what mode they were going to go for. I ended up leading Togekiss Rillaboom because my game plan was to Dynamax my Rillaboom and just put on a bunch of pressure on the Lapras and redirect the resonances from my Rillaboom because their Lapras was weakness policy. And so I actually ended up losing the first game, but the next two games I kind of adjusted to his Trick Room mode, and I Dynamaxed Rillaboom the second game, but I made sure not to proc his Lapras' weakness policy, and if I did, I made sure to kill it. So that's what happened game two. In game three, Trent changed up the game plan, and he led Talonflame, and this is what I prepared for a lot, and this time I maxed my Togekiss, and if you look at his team, he doesn't have too many resists to Togekiss. And so I kind of just took more kills than he could recover from, and I won the game that way.
So, like you mentioned, this is a really interesting tournament because it was held over 3 weekends, and so you actually had access to your opponent's team sheet going into this fourth round for an entire week to prepare. So, tell me a little bit about how you prepared in between rounds for this tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. That was actually a really big, important part of the tournament is that you could prepare for your opponents in between weeks. And so what I ended up doing was I would kind of make a paste of what they were using. I'd try and recreate their teams with ideas of what their EV spreads would look like, and then I'd test the matchup against my friends. And what I would do is I would try and see what mode is most threatening for me. What is the best thing they could do? And I kind of just try and figure out what my options are. So I would basically just play a bunch of games against my friends and see what my best game plan is. And I felt like that allowed me to, come up with really concrete game plans. And it made the games a lot more interesting because both players, had time to prepare. And I would often prepare for opponents in advance too if I felt like I might play someone I know. And I did that for the second week and the third week. So after beating Trent, I figured, I could only play two people. So I could either play my good friend Gavin or I could play Brendan Zhang. And so I had actually prepared for my friend Gavin and Brendan, but I had a feeling my Gavin was going to beat him. Um, being able to prepare for your opponents in advance was huge, and it really helped me versus Gavin.
Yeah, and so Gavin also finished in top 16, I think. And so his team report is going to be on the channel as well real soon. He used a really cool Diggersby team. You want to tell me about your matchup with him?
Yeah, that matchup was actually really weird. When I saw the team, the first thing that stuck out to me was, okay, he doesn't have a fun time versus Inteleon. And I realized, okay, what he's going to want to do is kill the Inteleon and then bring in his Diggersby. And so my game plan was to respond to that. His team was really hyper offensive, so it was really volatile. I couldn't have like one mode that worked versus everything. So my idea was to lead the Inteleon, and if he does not lead Diggersby, I'm going to switch it out and preserve it so I don't lose my win condition. And so he ended up leading Duraludon in the first game, and I protected my Inteleon, and later I brought it back in, and I G-maxed it, and he just wasn't ready for that. I don't think he anticipated me to max my Inteleon. One nice thing about the G-max moves is that their secondary effect is similar to Mold Breaker, so it actually ignored Friend Guard, and it was able to kill his Diggersby through Friend Guard. And I'd actually crit it, so he didn't even know that until until the third game, or after the game I told him that, yeah, it actually ignores friend guard. And so that was really important in the matchup.
That's a really cool interaction, and it's impressive that you caught that.
Yeah, it was actually really important to my game plan.
Hmm. So tell me about game
Yeah.
two.
So game two, I was actually in a good spot because I think I caught him on a switch and he had taken a lot of damage, but I made the mistake of letting Clefairy click Sing. And so he kind of just ran away with that momentum. He clicked Sing a couple times, he hit him, and I couldn't really recover because my Pokemon were asleep. And I mean, that was my mistake. I think I was in a good position, but I gave him that opportunity to do that. So that's kind of how I lost game three. He definitely made the correct play. And then game three, this was the game I actually Dynamaxed my Magnezone. Because that was actually a real threat if I had Magnezone in the back. Because, again, if you look at his team, the only thing he really has for it is the Diggersby. And so the game came down to a Diggersby versus my Magnezone, which had just finished its Dynamax. And I believe it was at +4 defense. And I wasn't sure if Diggersby was going to kill it with a Max Quake because I wasn't Dynamaxed. And I ended up soaking my own Magnezone, and the Max Quake did like 30%, and I managed to get a body press onto the Diggersby, and it was left in the red, but at that point, I just had to click Snipe Shot 2 times, and I had won the game. And so, yeah, that was a really good example of Soak being a defensive tool.
You heard it here first. Magnezone is a Diggersby answer.
Absolutely. Magnezone is an everything answer, let's be honest.
Yeah, and so that was the second week of the tournament. You continued on to top 16 in the winners bracket, and you had another week to prepare for, I believe it was Conan, who ended up getting a top four in this
Yes.
tournament. So tell me about your matchup with him.
Right. So I'd gotten his team, and at first glance, it looked like a pretty good matchup. It was just kind of the standard sand stuff. But then I thought about it a little more, and I'm like, okay, this Heatwave Togekiss could be problematic. And in testing, it ended up being actually really rough. It limited a lot of my options. And so my game plan going into this week was, okay, I'm going to lead Inteleon Rillaboom, and I'm going to soak him game one. The only way this doesn't work out is if he leads Dragapult and Togekiss, or Dragapult and Excadrill. And I thought, if you look at my team, you don't really want to max the Dragapult immediately, and so I thought, okay, game one, he might not do that. Here we are, game one, he leads Dragapult to Excadrill. I'm not happy. It doesn't go well. Conan gets a read early in the game, and I kind of just lose. Game two, I'm like, okay, he didn't really respect Magnezone enough. And so I went the Magnezone mode, and Magnezone really pulled through. I had clicked Steel Spike onto his Excadrill, and it switched into Togekiss, and that kind of just sealed the game because that was the real scary part of his team for my Magnezone. And so I'd won game two with just clicking Body Press in the end game after getting that early Togekiss kill. In the final game, I was really certain he was going to adjust because he had a lot of leads that could be problematic for my Magnezone lead. But he actually just stuck to Dragapult Excadrill again. He led that all 3 games, and I foolishly led Inteleon Rillaboom, predicting him to adjust his game plan. And once again, Conan just got a read early in the early game, and he managed to beat me. Yeah, I think I really messed up in that game 3. You know, I kind of let the nerves get the best of me, and he played really well to make sure I didn't have any way to come back.
Yeah, definitely, and that's a big moment, and it's really hard to make the right play so consistently, especially in a matchup like that.
Yeah, it is really hard to, play as best as you can in a rough matchup. Yeah, I got sent into the losers bracket, and I was playing Jeremy Odena, who I've played in-person tournaments a couple times. I actually think he knocked me out of Worlds last year, if I'm remembering correctly. But yeah, he's a super nice guy, a really strong player, and I saw he had a Sun team, so I was a little afraid. I had practiced the matchup earlier that week, and I could definitely win. But I think it was turn two in game one. He managed to get a flinch, and then he crit my Incineroar, and I kind of lost it turn one. And it didn't really seal the game, but it definitely made it a lot harder for me, especially since he played really well to preserve his Dynamax till the end game, and so he definitely just steamrolled me that game with a Gmax Venusaur in the back. Game two, I thought, okay, that's not gonna happen again. I'm gonna lead Togekiss and Incineroar with Rillaboom and Snorlax in the back. And this was kind of my general game plan versus his kind of son, which was Gyarados, Venusaur, Torkoal, Dusclops, Tyranitar, and Togekiss. I thought that the Togekiss and Incineroar would put pressure on early versus his Venusaur, but both games he had it in the back. And so I kind of had to position around that. Game two was going a lot better. It was kind of a back and forth. The deciding point in the game was when he brought in his Venusaur, and I had my Togekiss and Rillaboom out, and they were both at max poison range, and he managed to get the read. He called me protecting Togekiss, and he got the free kill on my Rillaboom, and that really sealed up the game for me. This was one of the games that I really wish I had high horsepower on Snorlax, because it made it a much more useful Pokemon. I could lock into a more reliable move. But Jeremy played really well to preserve his Dynamax, and at the end of the day, he just outplayed me, and that was the end of my run.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but hey, you had a really solid run, got all the way to top 12 against the top 256 players in North America, which is still something to be proud of. Do you have any final words or shout outs that you want to give out?
Yeah, I'd like to shout out everyone in our team building chat, Tub Nation. Shout outs you, shout outs Canal, shout outs Nails, Raj, and everyone. I'd like to shout out Colin and Chemo as well. And I just want to say that this tournament was a really, really positive experience. And I really hope we get more, online tournaments. And yeah, thank you everyone for listening to me ramble about my team.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for coming on. This is a really cool team, and I hope people take inspiration from it. You can see the rental code on the screen right now, and we also have the full paste bin in the description down below. This is the second of 8 players who got top 16 in this tournament who are going to be coming onto this channel and talking about their team, talking about their run. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to this channel so don't miss a single one of them. Thank you so much, Raghav, and it was great having you on.
Thank you for having me.